This session we're going to look at what we mean by participatory culture and what the implications of that are for audience development. So, participatory culture, the term is sort of used often in opposition to consumer culture, or the idea that the public are acting more as contributors to culture now. So the thinking is that we live in a time when digital technologies are having a big impact on the way people interact with culture, and people are now able to create, curate, share and disseminate, talk about culture that they think is valuable themselves. So they may be making films themselves, or doing video mashups, or contributing to crowdsourced films like Life in a Day, which we were talking about earlier. They may be curating their own viewing lists through platforms like Vimeo, for instance. They may be writing blogs in which they review films themselves. They say what they think is important and valuable, and they also do a lot of promotional work themselves through peer-to-peer recommendation through social networks. So your audience are essentially becoming cultural producers themselves, and this obviously has quite big implications for the traditional relationship between an arts organisation and audience, in inverted commas, because I'm not sure we can even really call them audience now. So in the old model, the arts organisation is curator-centred, and it is expert-led, and it disseminates out culture that it thinks is valuable to a sort of largely passive audience. And the audience and the organisation are operating in distinct spheres sometimes. In the sort of newer model, it's more of a sort of bottom-up, audience-centred approach, where your audience may be involved in programming. It may feel that it has more buy-in or interaction with the organisation itself. It can sort of give more feedback and feel like it's more part of the organisation. They're more active participants. You maybe feel that you're working more with the public rather than providing something for them. And it's more of a two-way dialogue, and some might say a more fruitful conversation rather than just a sort of disseminating out. It is a paradigm shift that you should be aware of, that is happening in the world, and people have different expectations. And even Jeremy Hunt, as soon as he came into power, started talking about participatory culture. So it's not a sort of minor trend that we can choose to ignore. But more importantly, it presents an audience development opportunity. First of all, to develop a sort of deeper engagement and more active involvement with the public, to allow them to have more buy-in and more loyalty. I know Heather didn't really like the word loyalty, but essentially that's what it is, to have a stronger dialogue and to get feedback from your audience about what you're doing well and what you could change, and also to get your audience to do a lot of your promotional work for you. We heard this morning about the importance of peer-to-peer recommendation, and if you can get your audience to, or if you can encourage your audience to do that kind of thing through social networks or blogs or whatever, then that has a massive impact. And finally, it can just make your organisation more interesting and more relevant to people.